So this video is a long time coming. So in today's tutorial, we're going to learn how to use third-party virtual keyboards with the Meta SDK. We could use the Meta SDK's virtual keyboard, but why not leverage their own SDK for a custom keyboard? This one is an easy one. Minimal scripting is required. I'm assuming you have Unity installed and have downloaded the Meta All-In-One SDK. I'm using Unity 2022.3.53 and the universal render pipeline, but the standard one will work just fine. Kudos to Valim's virtual keyboard tutorial for showing how to use this keyboard with the XR interaction toolkit. And so to expand on that, here I'll show you how to use the Meta SDK with this keyboard using principles from my previous video on ray interactions with the UI and canvas elements using Meta's SDK. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to download the MRTK keyboard standalone package. All we have to do is hit code, download zip. We're going to unzip this. And then all we have to do is drag it into our assets folder. Since I already dragged it in, I'm not going to do that right now, but that's all you really have to do. Now all we have to do is search for the non-native keyboard in the assets folder, and we drag this prefab over here. To save time, we're going to be using the Meta All-In-One SDK, which you can download from the asset store. It gives us these really cool tools that allows us to add building blocks, which speed up our workflow and help us jumpstart our game development. I highly recommend starting with these. So we're going to add the camera rig so that we can use our headset. We're going to add the virtual hands. And then we're going to add the ray interaction. And I think it's useful to see what the ray interaction adds. So you'll notice how it created a left and right ray. Because we're going to be working with a panel, we don't need this cube that's created. I'm using the URP pipeline. That's why it's pink, but we can just delete that anyways. Great. Now let's go to the keyboard object. Let's drag this up here so it's a little bit more organized. Let's go to the keyboard object, and we're going to make sure to uncheck close on inactivity. We're going to move this a little bit farther away. Raise it up, and let's hit play, and let's see what happens. So we don't see the keyboard. That's because keyboards like this are meant to appear when we need to use them. So let's check this, and then let's interact with it. But wait, nothing's happening. I can't interact with it. Why is that? Well, we need to set up ray interactions to work with this keyboard, and that's what we're going to do right now. So in order for the keyboard to become an interactable object and receive Meta SDK ray interactions, we need to follow steps like the ones that we learned in my previous video on UI ray interactions. Because the keyboard acts as a canvas and is in world space, what we can do is make this a pointable canvas. All we have to do for that is add the PointableCanvas object. We add the non-native keyboard to the canvas section. And then to make this interact with rays, we add the ray-interactable. Our pointable element is the canvas, so we can just drag that there. And then the surface, just like in the previous tutorial, is going to be something that we determine by creating a box collider, and the bounds of that box collider determine the selectable surface. But before we do that, we need to add an EventSystem game object. And we need to add an input module that can detect rays. So we're going to remove the standard one and add the PointableCanvasModule. This helps propagate input events, so it's very important to have. Otherwise, your controller or hands won't be able to interact with UI elements. We're almost there. We now have the foundational components to have ray interactions work, but now we need to tell Unity where to detect the ray interactions. So to do this, let's create a new empty inside the keyboard, and we're going to call it SurfaceCollider. We're going to add a box collider component to it and the collider surface script. Then we're going to drag the box collider to the collider input. Now, all we have to do is use the collider bounds over here to literally create the boundaries for where rays coming from our hands will be detected. So we can do this manually, or we can just remember that this is going to match the height and width of the keyboard. So we're going to copy this and paste it here. We're going to get the X, we're going to get the Y, and paste them here. Because this is a flat surface, we don't need the Z to be super wide, so we can just make it super thin. We want to capture this close button. We might just want to extend this just a little bit. So now we have everything we need. So now that we've created our bounds, we can go back to the native keyboard object and fill out some of the variables that we left behind. And in this case, since now we've created the bounds for where ray interactions can be detected, we can drag our boundaries object to the surface variable. Now let's hit play and see what happens. Let's set this to active, and now we can interact. Fantastic. This is looking great. Now we have a more convenient keyboard. So let's say you want to enable this keyboard when you have an input field, which is the typical use case for a keyboard. When you select an input field, then the keyboard appears. So to do that, let's create an empty. Let's call it the inputs panel. Let's reset the origin. And inside it, let's create a new canvas element. And just like we did with the keyboard, we want to make this canvas a pointable canvas. And we want to add the ray-interactable script. We're going to convert the canvas to world space. We're going to set the origin to 0. We're going to set the width to 500 and the height to 500. And in order to scale this down so that this becomes 5 meters, we can scale it down to 0.01. Let's add a new empty and call it the SurfaceCollider. We can add the box collider as we did before. This is going to create the bounds for our canvas for where ray interactions are detected. And we're going to add the SurfaceCollider or collider surface script on it. We can drag the box collider to the collider script. And let's readjust the bounds so that they fit into the canvas. And we're doing 5 because we scaled the canvas by 0.01, making the 500 become 5 meters. So now we have this set up. And if you ever wonder about how to do that, what you can do is that you multiply the width when you're in world space, multiply the width by the scale, and that gives you the meters that this converts to in world space. Hence why I was able to just put 5 there and it matches perfectly. And again, as always, we can set the Z to be very small because a canvas is flat and we don't need a very deep Z. So now we can go back to the canvas to become the pointable element, our collider to the surface, and we can move the canvas a little bit far back. And maybe the keyboard, we can move it a little bit down. Now let's add the input field. Under the canvas, create a new UI element. And we can put in an input field of Text Mesh Pro. If a pop-up shows up that tells you that you don't have Text Mesh Pro, just install it. Now we're going to raise this up a little bit so that we can see it better. And then in this input field, OnSelect, we can add a new event. And we can pass on the non-native keyboard here. And when the input field is selected, we could tell Unity to show us and make the keyboard active. So now, if we hit play, no keyboard. Oh, we forgot something. Required canvas element. Oh, yep, we forgot to do this. We add that here, and now that should work. So no keyboard, but once we select, the keyboard appears. Woo! Do you see how this is not clickable? This is because our surface collider is not aligned with our canvas. That's because we move the canvas and not the collider. And that's why it's nice to have a parent object that we do move and not the canvas. So let's set the position of the canvas back to 0. Now this is aligned, and now when we move this, now this pointable canvas element and this collider are not in the way of the keyboard. And as you can see now, we can select items on this keyboard. So let's exit play and then reset that again. This is all part of the process of creating. We make small mistakes And sometimes it takes forever to figure out what we did wrong. But in this case, this was an easy fix. Okay, so now we know that this is going to work. So how can we add functionality to this input field so that what we type here shows up here? Right now, it's just showing up here. The nice thing is that this standalone virtual keyboard creates events when letters are clicked, and we can access these events to trigger functions based on them. So if we look at the non-native keyboard script, so if we go click on the keyboard, double click on this, we will find these sets of events. So what we can see here is that events are triggered when the text is submitted by clicking the enter button and whenever the text is updated. What we can do is that we can listen to these events and do stuff with them. Okay, so let's create a new script. Let's call it virtual keyboard handler. And let's double click it. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import these namespaces. I just copy and paste it because they're long. So we need the TextMesh Pro namespace because we're going to be accessing an input field from TextMesh Pro. And we also need this namespace because it gives us access to the MRTK keyboard. And now we create a new public, call it non-native-keyboard. Let's call it keyboard. And we also need access to the input field. So public TMP input field. And we're going to call this separate input field. And I'm also going to create a bool, is text submitted. And we need this, and I'll explain why soon. Next, we can delete these methods. And if you remember, the non-native keyboard provides a bunch of events. So if we go to the non-native keyboard and we double click here, there's all these events that we have access to. The ones that we want are the onText submitted and the onText updated. And you can see here the onText updated takes in a string. So let's get access to these events and subscribe to them. So the way we do that is that every time that on enable, this is common practice, we access the keyboard and we access the onText submitted event. And the way we subscribe is by doing a plus equal sign. And then we're going to have a function and we're going to call it onHandle text submitted. Similarly, for the onText updated, plus sign, handle text updated. And every time that we subscribe, we have to make sure that we unsubscribe. So let's copy paste this, and this time on disable. And instead of a plus, we do a minus, and that's how we unsubscribe. Okay, great. Now let's create these functions. So first we're going to handle the text submitted. And we need to have object sender and event args e. These arguments are just typical arguments that occur when we have an event handler that's of this type. So if the text is submitted, then is text submitted becomes true. We also want to capture the text once the user clicks enter. So string captured text, and that's going to be equal to the keyboard's input field values text. And we want to make sure that we now update our own separate input field with the value that's from the keyboard's input field. So we can do separate input field dot text is equal to captured text. And then we can just do a debug log and then print out captured text. Great. Now let's create we first want to check that the input field is not null. And we also want to check whether the text has been submitted. So if the text has not been submitted and our separate custom input field is not null, then what we want to do is make sure that we give our separate input field the value. So separate input field is going to be equal to, the text is going to be equal to text. And we can do a debug log for that. Text updated. And make sure that we have is text submitted is equal to false. The reason we need this if statement here is that we want to make sure that when we submit, our text is captured and not deleted. And that's because in the non-native keyboard class, there's an order of operation that occurs that when the text is submitted, the keyboard text is cleared. And we want to make sure that we remember that text if we want to do further operations in our game. And I'll prove that to you. So let's go to the onTextSubmitted. And when this is invoked, you'll see that there is a close here. So let's go to close. When close is called, the game object, the keyboard, is set to inactive. It's disabled. So if we go to undisable, you'll see that it's then cleared. So we want to make sure that we don't clear. We could comment this out, but we can also handle it in our script. So the way we do that is by having this if statement and making sure that we have the captured text when isTextSubmitted is equal to true. Okay, so before we hit play, we have to make sure that we create a new game object, and we're going to call it the input manager. And over here, we can drag and drop our script. Let's drag in the non-native keyboard here and our input field right there. So now let's test it. Let's hit play. So now, no keyboard. Keyboard shows up. Enter. And it's still there. Great. Okay, let's review. First, we downloaded a third-party keyboard. And using components from the Meta SDK, we made the keyboard an interactable canvas. Second, we created a separate input field and also made this separate input field into an interactable canvas. Third, we realized because the MRTK keyboard has code that triggers Unity events, that we can subscribe to these events and do stuff with them. Now you can perform downstream actions based on input from a virtual keyboard. Woohoo!